welcome back to the studio. Now I'm working on the fountain. I'm using mixtures of my floor color, which is mud. That's 2 parts of ultramarine blue plus 1 part of alizarin crimson. And I have added into that white, and then I'm using I've added some of my phthalo blue plus cadmium orange mixtures of greens that I used in the background. So I've added those greens into my terracotta colors from the floor. And so that makes just a nice muted color for my stone. Now I'm working on the base of the fountain. As I come around the back side of it here, I'm going to make that a little bit bluer because that helps make that curve around. That's too light. This is ultramarine blue plus white, and this just helps to take that edge of that fountain back around. We're working on a flat surface, and we are attempting to give the feeling of dimension in our painting, and so there's just several little techniques that you can use to help do that. And that's one of them. Cool colors recede, that's blues, and then warmer colors come forward like the oranges and those colors. And I showed you a picture of this before I began painting the fountain, and if you'll look at that, you can see how the background, the colors are very cool, and as I come forward then there's a lot more oranges and warm colors, and that helps to give the feeling of depth in the painting. I'm getting this base, and then there's a little lip on the top of the fountain. I'm going to have California poppies in here and geraniums in there, so I'm not worried about where that comes back. But as this turns around, it gets a little darker. It's called the core shadow. And then as we get to this back edge, then I'm going to also make this a little bluer, so that goes around. And I'm going to make this a little darker underneath this lip. Now this is a mixture of my mud plus a little bit of liquid, and I can just come back in and paint into that color that I have on the canvas, and that just allows me to make that darker without influencing the color too much. I'm also going to use that same dark here within the fountain on that other lip on the back side of that top surface. Not worried about this side because the flowers will cover over it. I'm going to make this a little bit cooler back there. It's a little bit light, but there we go. Now I'm going to do the bowl of the fountain, this top bowl. And I'm going to again make my core shadow here. This is darker. Now this up here is lighter because the sunlight's coming from the left. You can see our 2 little hummingbirds up there. That's Scarlet and Red. That's our hummingbirds. They're up there just getting a little drink of water. Now my perspective may look just a little bit off. That's because my camera is at an angle to the canvas. I can't put it directly straight onto the canvas or I'd be in the way as I'm painting. So I have to kind of put it over to the left of me. So the perspective may look a little bit off. Anyway, again on the back side of this bowl, I also bring some of that blue and just along the base of it here. Bring some light, catching this part of the bowl here. And then this gets a little bit darker green over here. Not really a green, it's just kind of a gray. It's just a nice stone, and it gives me a contrast with the stone in the background. don't want to make the fountain in the background the same stone, because then you wouldn't have any variation of color. Wouldn't be very interesting. The base of the upright part of the fountain is coming here, and I'm going to make it a little cooler back here behind these flowers. We'll just make it drop back behind the warmth of the flowers. This is based on a fountain at Mission Santa Barbara in California. I've painted several variations of this fountain over the years, but it's a good base to use. I make little changes and stuff, but it's just a really good, beautiful fountain. You ever get there to the Santa Barbara Mission? There's a very similar one at the mission in Capistrano, San Juan Capistrano Mission. And these old fountains are just beautiful. And they've been there for many, many years. I'm going to have a little blue underneath here because that light reflects up from the water down in the fountain. This is in shadow. Actually, I guess this part of this upright pillar on the fountain is going to be a little bit darker. To remember my different planes. And this edge is a little bit lighter. You can see how I can use this bright brush. It's got a square end, but I can turn it sideways and just make my lines. You can use the corner to make fine detail. Flowers are going to pretty much come up over that, but I want this edge to be a little more defined. Now the light is hitting up here on this. This is rounded, and so it's catching the light up here. It's also catching the light. Pours, again, the light's pouring in from the left of the canvas. So this part of the fountain casts a shadow. Actually, that shadow probably would cast down more like that. And I soften that edge just a little bit. This is going to be a little darker here. Again, I can just turn this brush sideways. And this is going to be darker here. With the back edge of this, then I'm going to make cooler with my blue mixture to make that fall back. I've got that a little bit, I have that a little bit too wide, so I'm going to bring this there and bring my dark. That's better. Because I want this width to be almost the same as that width. I really appreciate you watching my YouTube videos and following my blog. And just remember, if you ever have questions, feel free to ask them. You can ask them in the comments section, and I will attempt to answer you. I just really appreciate that. As an artist, it's just really nice to be able to help other artists. God has so blessed Jack and I with being able to make a living making our art, and so we just feel that it's our responsibility to give back to others. And we've helped artists all over the world. And it's fun to share with them and their successes, and it's really, really neat. Just very special. We're all in this together, and there's no need to hoard ideas or keep back. Because we're all unique in what we do and how we paint, and so it's just fun to be able to share. Now this part of the lip of the fountain is in the light, so make this a little bit lighter, coming around here. And then the upper part of the fountain casts a shadow then over this part. So this surface will be, the upright side will be darker. This surface will be lighter, even though it's in shadow. I'll have to make this a little bit darker here. I've made that a little bit cooler, a little bluer. Make my dark here. Again, my flowers are coming up in there, so I'm not too worried about that. It's a little bit dark, but I can just pull some of my lighter color into that, and that lightens it up. Now I've got this little bit up here to do. This is the underneath. It's going to be darker. It's underneath the bowl. And then there's 4 of these pillars, and the light catches this one there because it's on the other side. The light's catching it. I don't want it quite as light as that one. And then this other one's going to be in shadow. So it's a little bit darker. And I'm going to make it, I can use the corner of my brush to just make that edge darker. Now I want a little bit of blue here from my bowl, because the water light, I'll say it in a second here. The water reflects the light, and so that gives a glow onto the underneath of this bowl. And then we're darker up in here. And I'm just bracing my fingers against the unpainted part of the canvas right there where the flowers are going to be. It's just, again, I can use the corner of my brush. And this is going to be a little bit lighter here, so that light hits that edge. Then there's going to be a light catches on the top. There's a little ledge right here. Light catches that. So, there we go. Our fountain's blocked in. I have a little more work to do, but that's basically blocked in. And I just thank you again, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.